My name is Cassidy Vance, but you can call me Cassie. I am 17 years old and I live in Maple Creek, Oregon. It is one of those small towns where the giant pine trees seem to whisper secrets to each other and Friday night football is basically a religion. My entire world, my whole reason for being, pretty much boils down to two things: my best friend Maya and soccer. And I do not mean just kicking a ball around in the park. I mean I live it, I breathe it. The smell of fresh cut grass is my favorite perfume. I am a forward, and there is no better feeling on this earth than that 60-yard dash towards the goal, the ball feeling like an extension of my own foot, the world blurring around me. Maya is my other half, a defensive wall that nobody can get through. We have been a unit on and off the field since we were little kids learning to tie our cleats. We are a perfect team. But our junior year, everything changed. Maya and I, thinking it would look good for college applications, signed up for advanced economics. The first day we walked into that classroom, it was like stepping onto a movie set. The room was clearly divided. On one side, you had the royalty of Maple Creek High. The queen bee was a girl named Amber Thorne. She was the captain of the cheer squad, and she had this icy way of looking at you that made you feel like you were something she found stuck to the bottom of her expensive boot. Her boyfriend Chad was the school's star quarterback, all swagger and perfectly gelled hair. They and their circle of friends acted like they owned the hallways, and maybe they did. Maya and I were on the other side of the room, and the social canyon between us felt a mile wide. We were not part of their world. We were just the soccer girls. The trouble started when Mr. Davison, our econ teacher, announced a school-wide, co-ed indoor soccer tournament between the different classes. He said it was for team building, a way to have some fun. But for Amber and Chad, it was just another stage for their never-ending popularity show. They immediately took charge of picking the team for our economics class. Of course, they picked all their friends, the jocks, the other cheerleaders, anyone who was part of their exclusive club. It did not matter if they had ever kicked a soccer ball in their lives. Maya and I just stood there waiting. It was a no-brainer. We were easily the best players in our grade, but Chad just scanned the list, looked right past us, and smirked. "Sorry, looks like the team is full," he said, not sounding sorry at all. "We need people who fit the vibe." Amber chimed in, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "It is more of a social thing, Cassie, you probably would not get it." The words hit me harder than a soccer ball to the chest. It was not just about some silly tournament. It was them in front of the whole class telling us we were not good enough, that we did not belong, we were not the type of girls to just take it. Maya and I went straight to Mr. Davison after class. We explained the situation, told him that we were experienced players and had been deliberately and unfairly excluded. But Mr. Davison was a nice man, which in this case meant he hated confrontation. He just gave us a weak smile and a shrug. "Team selection is up to the students, ladies," he said. "My hands are tied." It was a dead end. We felt completely powerless. To make it worse, the new econ aces, as they called themselves, made a huge spectacle of their practices in the gym. They would be laughing and goofing off, barely training, and posting dozens of pictures and videos online with hashtags like future champions and undefeated. They always made sure to tag the school so everyone could see. They wanted us to see. They wanted us to feel left out. The humiliation started to bleed into our daily lives. In class, Chad would make loud jokes about how their team was too cool for tryhards like us. Amber would lean over and whisper to her friends, then they would all look over at us and giggle. They were systematically trying to isolate us, to paint us as the class losers. Soccer had always been our thing, our safe place where we were confident and strong. Now they were twisting it into a weapon to use against us. I tried to ignore it, but the hurt was a constant, dull ache. Maya was just pure fury. One afternoon, we heard a rumor. The other advanced economics class, Section B, was desperate for players for their team. Most of our other friends were in that class, including our buddy Liam, who was a pretty amazing goalie. It was our only shot to play in the tournament. We raced to find their teacher, Ms. Albright, a tough but fair woman who coached the girls' volleyball team. When we asked if we could join, her face lit up. "Absolutely," she said. "We need all the help we can get." We were officially on a team. We were back in the game. Of course, when Amber and Chad found out, they thought it was the most hilarious thing they had ever heard. Chad cornered us in the hallway, his whole crew behind him. "Well, well, well," he announced for everyone to hear. "Looks like the rejects found a team of other rejects to play with." His friends howled with laughter. Amber stepped right up to me, her smile pure poison. "This is going to be so much fun, Cassie," she purred. "Our team plays you guys first. We should make it an event." The next day, the school was plastered with posters they had made. They featured a sleek, professional-looking logo for the Econ Aces next to a pathetic drawing of a stick figure crying, labeled The Leftovers. They were not just planning to win a game, they were planning to publicly destroy us. They started taking bets in the cafeteria during lunch, loudly proclaiming the odds were 100-1 in their favor. They invited everyone they knew, their friends, the freshmen who worshipped them, even some of the younger teachers who always tried to be cool with the popular kids. The pressure was suffocating. Our new teammates were getting really nervous. All of that confidence Maya and I had felt was starting to crack. The game was no longer about soccer. It felt like our entire reputation, our pride was on the line. What if they were right? What if we lost in front of everyone and proved we really were just losers? The night before the game, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, their mocking laughter echoing in my head. All we ever wanted was to play, and they had turned our favorite thing in the world into a stage for our own humiliation. Game day arrived. The air in the gym was electric, buzzing with noise and anticipation. It was packed, way more crowded than any school event I had ever seen. Amber and her entire cheer squad were on the sidelines doing elaborate routines. The bleachers were a sea of Chad's football buddies and Amber's friends, all chanting aces, aces, aces. Our little group of supporters, a handful of friends and parents, looked so small and lost in the crowd. When our team, officially nicknamed the Leftovers, walked onto the court, a wave of sarcastic cheers and laughter washed over us. Chad's team looked like professionals in their matching uniforms, their faces smug and overly confident. Our team was a rainbow of mismatched t-shirts and anxious expressions. The referee blew the whistle and the game began. The first few minutes were a blur of chaos. We were a mess, intimidated by the crowd and their arrogance. Before we could even find our footing, one of their players slipped past our defense and scored. It was 1-0. The gym erupted. Chad jogged past me, a cruel smirk on his face. "Better get used to that feeling, Vance," he sneered. On the sidelines, Amber was jumping up and down like they had just won the World Series. It was in that moment, seeing her smug celebration, that something inside me snapped. I looked over at Maya and I could see a raging fire in her eyes. That was all I needed. This was not a game anymore, it was a war. I called our team into a quick huddle. "Listen to me," I said, my voice low and intense. "Forget them, forget all of this noise, we play for us, let's just play our game." It was like a switch flipped. On the next play, Maya executed a perfect slide tackle, stealing the ball from their star player. She looked up, saw me breaking free, and sent a flawless pass down the court. I took it in stride, dodged two of their clumsy defenders who were more concerned with how their hair looked, and I fired a rocket of a shot into the top corner of the net. Goal. The gym fell silent for a beat, a collective gasp of shock. Then our tiny section of fans went absolutely insane. The look of pure disbelief on Chad's face was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. From that point forward, it was a completely different game. The fear was gone, replaced by a cold, focused determination. We were not a bunch of random kids anymore, we were a team. I scored again. Then Liam, our goalie, made a spectacular diving save that had our supporters on their feet. Sam, a quiet kid from our class who barely spoke, scored an incredible goal with a header off a corner kick. We were running circles around them. The aces were all flash and ego, but they had zero teamwork. They started yelling at each other, pointing fingers after every mistake. We, the Leftovers, played with a synchronized grace with heart. The goals just kept coming. 2, 3, 4, then 5. With every point we put on the board, the confidence drained from their faces like air from a balloon. The massive crowd grew quieter and quieter. Amber stopped her cheers and just stood there, her arms crossed, her perfect makeup unable to hide her scowl. When the final whistle blew, the scoreboard seemed to glow. Red Leftovers 11, Aces 1. We had not just won, we had systematically dismantled and destroyed them. In front of the entire school, they had personally invited to watch them humiliate us. The silence in that gym was the sweetest, most satisfying sound I had ever heard in my life. Chad, Amber, and their entire team just stood there on the court, utterly stunned. They could not even look at us. They made excuses for weeks afterwards. The gym floor was too slippery, Chad claimed. Our best player was feeling sick, Amber told everyone who would listen. But nobody was buying it. The story of their epic failure spread through the school like wildfire. Maya and I were not the rejects anymore, we were the underdogs who had slayed the dragons. A few weeks later, it was time for the second game in the tournament schedule. This time there were no flashy posters, no public bets, no taunts in the hallway. They had learned their lesson about pride. But it did not matter. Everyone showed up to the game anyway. They wanted to see if our first victory was just a lucky fluke. They wanted to see the high and mighty Royals of Maple Creek get humbled one more time. That game was tougher. They played with angry, desperate energy. But we played smarter. We held them off with solid defense, and with just 2 minutes left on the clock, I got a breakaway, faked out their goalie, and tapped the ball into the empty net. We won 1-0. That victory cemented it. We went on to win the whole tournament. And for the rest of that year and all through our senior year, we never lost a single game to them. They became a running joke. Life at Maple Creek High really did change after that. The social pyramid that had seemed so tall and unmovable started to crumble. People talked to us more, not just about soccer. Our team, the Leftovers, became this legend at school, the cool, scrappy group that nobody messed with. As for Amber and Chad, their reign was over. They broke up a few months later, and their whole popular clique just kind of fizzled out. But the best part was not about winning or being popular. It was the feeling of standing up for ourselves, of taking their weapon of humiliation and turning it back on them. It was proving in front of everyone that skill and teamwork will always beat arrogance and popularity. On the last day of our senior year, a freshman girl I had never seen before came up to my locker. She told me she was trying out for the varsity soccer team because she had been at that first game against the Aces. She said watching us win made her believe that you did not have to be one of the cool kids to be great at something. And I realized our revenge was bigger than just one game. We had changed the culture just a little bit. A few years later, I heard through the grapevine that Chad was working for a big sporting goods company. His job. He spent his days in a warehouse inflating soccer balls for high school tournaments. I guess some people are just destined to stay on the sidelines.